Hello, everybody. Welcome to my Aliens and UFOs series. This is going to be the first episode in many series I'm going to do. I wanted to do Aliens and UFOs first because I found this particular entity we're talking about today to be kind of a fascinating story. We're talking about Indrid Cold, and he is a known alien that was sighted in West Virginia and on November 2nd of 1966. It was by a man named Woodrow Derenberger. He was an Appalachian man and salesman for a sewing machine company. And at 7:30 p.m., while he was returning from Marietta, Ohio to his home, he had a strange experience. He was driving in his red panel truck on Route 77 in Parkersburg, West Virginia. He claimed that he saw a flying metallic cigar-shaped craft traveled right by his truck and blocked the roadway ahead and gradually made him slow down to a stop onto the side of the road. Woodrow also described the vehicle as resembling a kerosene lamp chimney. The aircraft was hovering above 12 inches off the road. A door opened on the craft and a being exited the ship, and the door shut with a loud thunk behind him. Later, the vehicle climbed about 50 feet in the air above the highway, and a being walked right up to his truck window. Derenbergers described the being as looking like an ordinary man off the street, 6 feet tall and about 35 years of age, olive complexion, dark brown hair, and wearing a glossy metallic dark blue coat. Almost kind of like if you think about those Men in Black sightings too. You know, they're always dressed in, kind of like black suits. They're very abnormal looking. Well, anyway, the man spoke to Woodrow telepathically. His mouth did not move and said he had a fixed smile on his face. Now, interesting about Indrid Cold, he's also known as the Grinning Man because when he was seen, he always had this very unusual, like, grinnish smile. And when the man looked in through the truck's window and said without speaking something along the lines of roll down your window, this is Indrid Cold talking to him, roll down your window, I want to talk to you. During their communication, the man called himself Indrid Cold. He told Woodrow that he meant him no harm. And in an interview, Derenberger said, I was very frightened, and as far as I can understand, this was all mental. There were not spoken words from him. I knew that he was asking me, but yet he stood there and his mouth did not move. He had a smile on his face. He appeared very courteous and friendly. Supposedly, according to Derenberger, his conversation with Indrid Cold lasted about 10 minutes. Cole told him, we eat, we breathe, we sleep, we even bleed even as you do, before returning to his craft. And he said, we will see you again. Derenberger later actually reported this event to the police. Yeah, so this, whatever this being was, seemed to almost have known where Derenberger was going to be that day, and I guess he must have had his eye on him, judging by the fact that he told him he would see him again soon. Well, regardless, eventually, after Derenberger told the police about this story, the media gained a hold of it, and it gained widespread news coverage and attention after the Parkersburg police were convinced of his story. So, kind of like in those rare instances where it seemed the police actually believed someone for once, because usually when, most UFO witnesses, they tell the police are like, kind of like, either laugh at them or, understandably very skeptic. Well, apparently, a representative of the Air Force even contacted him soon after his accounts were documented on November 3rd, 1966. During this media storm, he went on live TV in Parkersburg, West Virginia, where he was interviewed by the state police, the Wood County Airport, the city police, and representatives from the Dayton, Ohio Air Force Base. And so they filmed this interview, and after the interview aired, an older man claimed that he too actually saw a figure matching Indrid Cold's description on the same route, Route 77, trying to flag him down, but he was afraid to stop. Derenbergers' conversation with Cold could be corroborated. Other people claim to see lights and fluttering vehicles at the same instant on the road. So it seems as if Route 77 has a lot of things going on there. Lights in the skies, creepy grinning men trying to flag people down and telepathically talking to them. Not sure if that's the place you would want to be riding around on late at night. Well, anyway, it was big news in that area. Almost 3 weeks, the Parkersburg News chronicled Derenberger's story, and a number of forthcoming witnesses, many of whom asked to remain anonymous or have their names withheld. So it seems as if Derenberger wasn't alone in this. I guess maybe this story convinced people, well, if this guy's going to come out and talk about it, we might as well be able to too. So what's there to be scared of? Well, over the course of the month that followed, Derenberger claimed he was visited by Indrid Cold many times and that he even took him on a spaceship to his planet. Indrid Cold would also appear at Woodrow's front door. His wife and children even knew that this Indrid Cold was paying him visits, and that they even eventually came forward saying that they too saw Indrid Cold and other strange beings. How about that? Like, you get to the point where some strange grinning man is now paying you regular visits to your home, and it's like, if they had like doorbell cams, like, kid probably looks through the doorbell cam and he's like, Dad, it's Indrid Cold again. And you just see like his grinning face like pressed up against the doorbell cam. Ugh, that'd be kind of creepy. Well, Woodrow's wife was terrified and stated that these beings were much like us, traveled in everyday cars, dressed in everyday clothes, but were not human in origin. There was even one time where Mr. Derenberger disappeared for 6 months and said he was with Indrid Cold. Wow. An intergalactic vacation. Who would have thought? This is what members of his family actually believed. He would also receive mental messages from his long-distance friend. They would come suddenly and leave Pearson migraine headaches. Talk about an intergalactic pen pal. That is honestly very odd. I couldn't even imagine. Well, his residents would often receive strange, unknown phone calls. Sometimes they were threats to stop speaking about his experience. Other times they were odd beeps and electronic hums. Sometimes it was just silence. The family changed their number to an unlisted one, but somehow the calls continued. Intergalactic telemarketers, more so to say. Imagine that. Your alien pen pal is suddenly now threatening you telepathically from some planet, telling you to stop talking about what you saw. Well, Derenberger's story gained much media attention that locals would actually flock to his house all hours of the day and night and wait in crowds in his driveway to catch a glimpse of his friend, Indrid Cold. Bogle Ridge is another location associated with the story. Derenberger claimed to go there and meet with Indrid Cold and go on rides into outer space. Some locals claim to actually have seen spaceships land there. Wow. You're trying to sleep at night and people want to see your alien friend. In crowds, man, in crowds. Like, you usually hear about, like, the paparazzi doing that, or, God forbid, you're like a upcoming celebrity and your fans find out you're at your house. They're all, like, gathering around there trying to get pictures of you. But no, they're not even there for you. In this case, they're just here to see the alien you apparently are going on joyrides with in outer space. Well, anyway, on one occasion, two men armed with loaded rifles were hiding in the woods by Derenbergers' property. They observed a black Volkswagen enter his front yard. A peculiar man dressed in all black suit with tan skin exited and talked with Woodrow before leaving. The hunters were disappointed. They even waited longer, wanting to see something truly terrifying, but maybe they already had. Woodrow hadn't heard of the men in black, but after his visit, he was extremely frightened by them. So, now it's escalated into the men in black showing up. Derenberger eventually decided to seek medical attention. In the opinion of a Parkersburg psychiatrist, he not only leaves with a clean bill of health and absolutely no evidence of chemical imbalance or disruption, but his very doctor endures a reaction soon after their meeting. He is contacted in December by a most peculiar man. His name, Indrid Cold. He doesn't reach out by phone, but telepathically. Wow, that is just... Whew, that is creepy. Man, you're just caring for your patient, you hear this story, and suddenly you realize you're being talked to by an alien. And I guess now you'd have to be a believer, huh? Well, Derenberger later related his stories to an author in 1971. They published a book titled Visitors from Llanellos, which told Woodrow's visits from Indrid Cold. The book contained a forwarded date, October 12, 1968, by John Keel. There are excerpts from John's foreword. There are many who will scoff at this book and reject it entirely. Woodrow Derenberger will be called a liar, a psychopath, and many other unpleasant things. He has already suffered considerable ridicule and condemnation, even from those who believe in flying saucers, but do not wish to believe that someone is actually riding around in them. I cannot endorse his story, but I do feel I know the man well enough to give him a character reference. The important thing is that he seems to be telling the truth as he knows it. He sincerely believes that these things happen to him, and he's willing to expose himself to ridicule and condemnation in order to make himself heard. Now, for those who don't know, John Keel was the author of the Mothman prophecies. Now, if you're not familiar with the Mothman, this is sort of related to that story. John Keel was a paranormal researcher who went to Point Pleasant in the 60s to investigate the sightings of the Mothman. So it makes sense that he somehow got involved with this, and that Indrid Cold is probably most likely related to the Mothman in some ways. That's just a theory of mine. I like to think it's somehow connected, considering that West Virginia seems to just be a hot spot for the paranormal, cryptids, and UFOs. Might even be all tied together. We never know. Well, Woodrow's overall experience as a contactee didn't just negatively affect him, but his family and his closest friends. It came by the way of years of harassing phone calls, losing jobs, losing friends, people trespassing on his property, ridicule, embarrassment, painful headaches, and depression. He suffered a bitter divorce and had to move away from the area because of his notoriety. He would later tell how his writing would disappear from his locked house, and letters he sent would never reach their destination. He felt he was being watched. He moved away to escape his past and lived somewhere else for a long time. Years later, he moved back to the area and passed away in 1990 at the age of 74. Derenberger never denied his earlier claims. He simply stopped discussing them. So, not only did this man stick to his story, but he died sticking to it. and you got to give it to him for that. Well, anyway, that is going to conclude my first, episode of Aliens and UFOs. Tell me, what do you think? Do you think Indrid Cold was real? Do you think Woodrow Derenberger was telling the truth? Is it all BS? Let me know in the comments below. I would definitely like to hear your guys' opinions. Well, without further ado, everyone have a good night, and I'll see you guys at the next episode. Take care.